Hello, it's Mr. D again. This is lesson 1 from our book study. We're going to be reading Bud, Not Buddy. So, this first picture, take this out of your ELA folder and take a good look at this picture. Look closely. Focus on the details. Read the caption and think about what's there. Take a couple minutes. Pause this video and really look at the picture. What do you notice? What do you see? Really take a good look. For me, I noticed that one boy has no shoes. I noticed that they kind of look dirty and that it was back in the olden days because you have an old truck. Here's the old truck off to the side. Here's a boy sitting with no shoes. They do look kind of dirty and his clothes are tattered. So that's what I noticed in this picture. Underneath the picture, there's a caption. What is a caption, you might ask? Well, a caption is a description of a picture. You can usually find the caption underneath that picture. And so go back to the picture of the two boys sitting down and read the caption to yourself. In case you're wondering, the caption is down here, starting with during the Great Depression. So the caption reads, during the Great Depression, more than 200,000 vagrant or orphan children wandered the country as a result of the breakup of their families. It was a sad time in America. The Great Depression was a time between 1929 and 1933 where many people were having hard financial times. In other words, many people lost their jobs. Many people had no money for things like food, housing, all the basic necessities of life. Many families had it so hard that there were a lot of parents who left their children to fend for themselves. Many children had to find their own food and shelter. Thousands of children became homeless at this time. And this story, Bud Not Buddy, is about an orphan child and his struggles to survive during this period of time in history. In your ELA folder, you will also find a word catcher. This word catcher is for chapters 1 and 2. At the top of your word catcher, make sure you write your name and date. Above your name, you'll need to write chapters 1 and 2, and in parentheses, write the number 20. This word catcher will be for chapters 1 and 2. In these two chapters, you will need to find 20 words that you don't know the definition of, or words that may be challenging for you to read. At the end of chapter 2, you will choose 10 words to write definitions and parts of speech for. In case you're wondering, parts of speech show the type of word it is, like a noun, a verb, an adjective, so on and so forth. So here's your word catcher. This is what it looks like, in case you were wondering, a little confused. Make sure you write your name and date on it. Up above your name, write chapters 1 and 2, and then right next to that, in parentheses, write chapter 20, or write the number 20. That means you will need to find at least one word per page to write down for a total of 20, since there are 20 pages in chapters 1 and 2. Also, in your ELA folder is something called Tracking Bud's Rules. Throughout the book, you're going to come across several rules that Bud uses to live his life. You won't see any in chapter 1, so don't worry, but you will see some in the upcoming chapters, starting with chapter 2. I will give more information on this as we get to the first rule, but we will analyze each rule and determine, that should be if, a rule is so Bud can survive being homeless, or if the rule is to help Bud thrive or have a better life. Keep this sheet in your ELA folder until it's time to analyze a rule in chapter 2. This is what Tracking Bud's Rules sheet looks like. Again, you'll start this sheet in chapter 2. You'll write the rule in your own words. You'll analyze the rule to see if it's used to survive or to thrive. And you will determine a couple of things. First, where you think Bud got this rule, what happened in his life to make him think that and what it tells you about Bud. Lastly, you have an exit ticket in your ELA folder. This one will need to be turned in when you come back to get more materials next week. You'll need to read Chapter 1 of Bud Not Buddy. When you are done reading Chapter 1, you will need to think about what you learned about Bud in this chapter. What you know about Bud based on what you read in Chapter 1 should be written on the left side of the worksheet, and you will need 2 things, one for each box. On the right side, you will need to indicate how you know this about Bud. In other words, you need to write what in the story made you think this. To do that, you will need to write a direct quote, which is the exact words from the story. You will also need to write down the page number where you found this quote. Here's the exit ticket, what it looks like. Again, in this section, you will need to write 2 things you learned or you know about Bud based on what was said in the story. That goes on the left side. On the right side is the direct quote and the page number where you found the information. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and contact me with those questions, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks. Have a good day. Enjoy reading Chapter 1.